From stage fright to TEDx, one woman's journey. Have you ever stood in front of a crowd and felt your heart beating so fast that you could hear it echoing in your ears? That was Maya's world. She wasn't shy in everyday life, no. She was bright, funny, and curious. But the moment someone said, "Can you speak in front of the class?" everything inside her froze. Her throat tightened, her palms turned cold, and her voice disappeared. As a teenager, she failed an entire school project, not because she didn't know her topic, but because she couldn't stand up and speak. The teacher's words echoed in her mind for years: "If you can't speak, no one will ever know what you think." Those words cut deep. And they stayed. But life has a strange way of testing us again and again until we finally face what we fear most. Years passed. Maya grew older, wiser, but the fear still lived inside her. She worked quietly in an office, avoiding attention, avoiding presentations. She preferred to write emails instead of speak in meetings. Yet deep down, there was something burning, a desire to be heard. She wanted to inspire, to share ideas, to connect. Every time she watched a TED Talk, she whispered to herself, "I wish I could do that." But then, that little voice of doubt would whisper louder, "You? On stage? Impossible." Still, a tiny spark inside her refused to die. One day, her company announced a leadership program. Each participant had to give a 5-minute speech about an idea that could make a difference. Maya tried to ignore it. She told herself, "It's not for me." But something in her heart said otherwise. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept imagining herself standing on that stage. She could feel her knees shaking just thinking about it, but she also felt something else, a quiet excitement. So she took a deep breath and clicked apply. And just like that, the journey began. When the day finally came, Maya almost quit. Her name was called, and as she walked toward the stage, her hands trembled. She could feel hundreds of eyes watching her. The microphone looked like a mountain. The stage lights blinded her vision. And for a moment, everything went silent. She could hear her old fear whispering again, "You'll fail. You'll embarrass yourself." But then, she remembered something her mentor had told her: courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite it. She closed her eyes, took one deep breath, and began to speak. At first, her voice was shaky, uncertain. But with every word, she grew stronger. Her story, about kindness in the workplace, touched hearts. By the end, the audience stood up and clapped. She cried that night. Not because of fear, but because for the first time in her life, she felt free. That single moment changed everything. Maya started saying yes more often, yes to interviews, yes to small conferences, yes to uncomfortable challenges. Each stage was a new battlefield, but also a new victory. She joined a local Toastmasters club to practice public speaking. At first, her speeches lasted 2 minutes. Then 5. Then 10. Every time she stood up, her fear became smaller, and her confidence became louder. And one evening, after years of small steps and big courage, she received an email that made her heart stop. "Dear Maya, we are pleased to invite you to speak at TEDx." She couldn't believe it. The same woman who once couldn't say her own name in public was now being invited to speak on one of the world's most respected stages. The red circle on the stage, the bright lights, the idea worth spreading, it all felt like a dream. When Maya received the TEDx invitation, she stared at the email for hours, not knowing whether to laugh, cry, or panic. She wanted this moment for years, yet now that it was real, her old fear whispered again, "You're not good enough." But she had learned something powerful over time. Fear doesn't disappear, it transforms when you walk through it. So instead of deleting the email, she wrote back, "Yes. I accept." Then she shut her laptop, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, "It's time." For months, Maya practiced her speech, again and again. She rehearsed in her living room, in the car, even in the shower. Her cat became her first audience. She recorded herself and watched the replays, sometimes smiling, sometimes cringing. But she kept going. Every day, every hour, she improved a little more. Still, the fear would creep in late at night. What if you forget your lines? What if people laugh? What if you freeze again? And every time those thoughts appeared, she repeated a simple truth: my story might help someone. Because it wasn't about being perfect anymore. It was about being real. She wanted to show others that vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage in its purest form. The night before the TEDx event, Maya couldn't sleep. Her mind was a storm of emotions: excitement, anxiety, hope. She stood by her window, watching the city lights, and whispered, "Tomorrow, I'll walk into the same fear that once silenced me, but this time, I'll speak louder than it." She imagined the red circle waiting for her, a symbol of everything she had run from, and everything she had become. Before going to bed, she opened her journal and wrote 3 lines: I am ready. I am enough. My voice matters. The next morning, the auditorium was buzzing with energy. Cameras, lights, the hum of conversation, everything felt larger than life. When her name was called, Maya walked out with trembling legs but a steady heart. The stage lights were blinding, yet for the first time, she didn't look away. She looked straight at the audience, hundreds of faces, each waiting to hear her. She began softly: when I was 15, I failed a presentation because I was too afraid to speak. A few people nodded. Some smiled. And as she continued, her voice grew warmer, stronger. She told the story of her fear, her failures, her journey, but also of hope, courage, and rebirth. She shared how facing her fear didn't destroy it, it transformed it into power. Every pause she took carried weight. Every breath was filled with purpose. And then came the final words that silenced the room: if my voice can go from trembling in fear to standing here today, then so can yours. The audience rose in applause. Some people had tears in their eyes. In that moment, Maya realized her story wasn't about her. It was about everyone who had ever doubted themselves. When the lights faded and the stage emptied, Maya sat quietly backstage. Her heart was full, not of pride, but of peace. She remembered that scared teenage girl who once couldn't say a word in front of her class, and she smiled. Because that same girl had just spoken on a TEDx stage and changed lives. Later, she received hundreds of messages from strangers: your talk gave me courage. I finally applied for that job. Thank you for helping me believe in myself. Maya realized something profound. When you share your truth, you give others permission to share theirs. Weeks after the event, Maya's TEDx talk went online. At first, only a few hundred people watched it. Then thousands. Soon, messages began pouring in from around the world: students, teachers, entrepreneurs, artists, all saying the same thing: I saw myself in your story. And that's when she understood the deeper truth: the world doesn't need more perfect voices, it needs more authentic ones. We live in a time where people hide behind filters, behind fear, behind the illusion of perfection. But courage isn't about removing fear, it's about showing up with it. She realized that the trembling voice she once hated was actually her greatest teacher. It had taught her empathy, resilience, and strength. It had shown her that the greatest power we possess is the power to keep showing up. In every workshop she gave after that, Maya would ask her audience one simple question: what would you do if fear didn't stop you? The silence that followed always said everything. Because deep down, we all have that one thing we dream of doing, but don't. Maybe it's speaking up. Maybe it's starting something new. Maybe it's simply believing that we're enough. And that's the essence of her journey. She didn't defeat fear. She befriended it. She learned to walk beside it, not run away. She learned that courage doesn't roar, sometimes it whispers, try again tomorrow. Today, Maya still feels nervous before every speech. Her palms still sweat, her heart still races. But now, she smiles and says, "Welcome back, old friend." Because she knows that trembling means she cares. It means her voice still carries purpose. From stage fright to TEDx, from silence to strength, her journey became a living proof that transformation is not a single event, it's a daily choice. The choice to stand up when it's easier to stay quiet. The choice to believe in your voice, even when it shakes. The choice to say, "I'm not fearless, but I am brave." So now, if you're listening to this story and thinking, "That's me. I'm afraid to speak. I'm afraid to fail," then remember this: every great speaker once had a trembling voice. Every confident person once felt unsure. Every strong soul once felt small. You don't need to be fearless, you just need to begin. Because the act of beginning is what transforms fear into power. Let Maya's story be a reminder that your fear is not a wall, it's a doorway. And on the other side of that doorway lies everything you've ever dreamed of becoming. As Maya stood once again on a small local stage years later, someone from the audience asked her, "How did you overcome stage fright?" She smiled and said softly, "I didn't overcome it. I walked hand in hand with it, all the way to the red circle." And that's what life is, isn't it? A series of trembling steps toward who we're meant to be. So the next time fear knocks on your door, don't hide. Don't run. Just take a breath and whisper, "Let's go." Because your voice, your story, your truth, they matter more than you can ever imagine. If this story moved something inside you, if it reminded you of your own strength, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Speak it. Live it. And if you believe in stories that inspire growth, courage, and transformation, then join our journey. Here we learn, aspire, master, reflect, and evolve together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that their trembling voice might just change the world.